Guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have the final of the newest round of Wild Roars from Mattel. We have, again, from the Epic Evolution line, we've got the Hesperosaurus, and this is another super nice looking figure, as well as another really cool species choice from Mattel. Loving the fact that they keep giving us so much variety when it comes to their species choices. On top of that, when you turn the box around, you can see a nice kind of a preview of the figure right there. It looks really nice in that image. And again, the fact that we have 3 other figures in this wave, all of which we have now reviewed here on the channel. So let's pop this box open and check it out. So here is our Hesperosaurus, and it really does look quite nice. I think they honestly did a very good job on this one. Again, it's a beautiful species, and I like this one a lot because it's probably one of the more unique looking stegosaur species we've seen from Mattel, and again, potentially one of the more impressive sculpts from the stegosaur species they've released. But again, Mattel is just absolutely killing it. Like, I can't even begin to describe how impressed I am, especially lately with the very obscure species they've been creating. I remember there was a time where we didn't really get obscure species too often, and then we got that Seats Micororum, and I remember being very impressed, like, wow, where did Mattel come up with that one to, again, give us a figure of it, because it was just so obscure. But, like, since then, they have just bombarded us with some amazing, very obscure species, and I am loving every second of it. But I'm also loving this figure so far, so let's jump to a closer look and check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Hesperosaurus, you can see it looks really good. They've definitely given the Stegosaurus some really nice life here in the face, just with the mouth being open a little bit, just adding a little character, I think, to the figure. Looks really good. You can see the beak as well as sculpted nicely, and the actual fine detail within the beak is quite impressive. We've got the nostrils there. As you lead back, you can see the skin texture of the face looks really nice as well. The eye is painted with an orange, and unfortunately, we do have a green pupil rather than a black pupil. It definitely would have been nice to again see a black pupil. I think the Megalosaurus was the only one from this wave that had an actual black pupil. But you do have, again, a nice greenish tone for the face, as well as kind of like a light gray here underneath the face and like the cheek area that just sort of shows up randomly here and then is gone. As you lead up here into the top of the head, you can see that the plates begin to pick up, and they are a lighter variation of a green. You can also see when you get nice and close that the actual detailing of those plates is quite impressive. Leading down the course of the neck, again, very nice looking scale detail, skin texture, kind of skin detail as far as like creasing and wrinkling. You can also see a slightly different appearance to the skin texture of the throat. Unfortunately, there's no neck articulation, and with a neck that's pretty decent as far as the length goes, I feel like they could have added some articulation to it, but it's not the end of the world. As you lead up here, of course, the plates begin to get larger on the dinosaur, and as you can see, one of the things I really like is that you can see there's like imperfections to the plates. So as you lead through, there's kind of like, you know, cracks and crevices, and just like that imperfect sort of look to the plates as you lead around the outer edges. And I think that's really nice because it is a nice dose of realism. And then again, you also have the cracks and crevices within the plates. As you lead down here into the body a little bit, you see more of that light gray pick up here briefly in the side of the dinosaur, leading up from the shoulder into the stomach region. Leading down here into the leg, you can see some nice muscle definition as well as the elbow present. You've also got some creasing here in the wrist, as well as, again, a very nice looking foot sculpt with the toes sculpted nicely and the nails also sculpted nicely and unpainted, unfortunately, but they do have a gloss coat, which again is something that we've seen a lot on this newest round of actually not even just these, in fact most of the new Mattel figures I think we've seen that on. But as you lead up, again, you have more of the plates leading along. You can see we have that greenish tone briefly following along, like this light green of the plates briefly following along the upper side of the dinosaur, rather than that dark green, because I feel like it was all one piece that was sort of implanted in there. Yeah, definitely. So that's probably why we have that going on. I also really like the skin detail under the plates. That's really nice as well. As you lead down here into the thigh, again, more nice muscle definition, more nice scale detail. We've got the knee right there, as well as a nice calf muscle. Some wrinkling in the ankle as We lead down here into the foot. Again, really nice looking foot sculpt. Again, the nails sport some nice detail. You can even see cracks and crevices kind of within the nails. And again, that gloss coat. As we lead back up here, you can see we continue to have that greenish tone moving along the plates here. Again, we have a brief area where that light green picks up here for the back of the dinosaur. Again, because it is all one piece that has been implanted into our Hesperosaurus. As you lead out, you can see the tail has a really nice, elegant curve to it. It also curves toward us, so it looks like the dinosaur is defending itself. One thing that is a bummer, though, is as you lead out here, you can see the thagomizers look really nice as far as the sculpt goes, but they don't have any paintwork, and I think that the thagomizers definitely could have benefited from some sort of coloration, especially when you look at this. There's not that much color to it, so it would have been nice to at least have that going on. As we lead here along the underside, again, you can see a little bit of a different look to the skin texture, but you'll also notice that, again, we don't have any coloration for the underside of the dinosaur at all. And then as you lead here over to the other side, you're going to pretty much see the same thing. The head's pretty straightforward and everything. No real big differences over here. You can see the eyes placed just as nicely as we saw on the first side. The only really big difference you'll see is the fact that the legs are in a slightly different position. Also, I can see the rib cage. I don't know if I pointed that out on the other side, but I definitely see it right here. Again, that grayish tone picking up here. The green leading along the back, but as we lead out here, again, you have that curve in the tail. Now, the tail does curve away from us, which I do actually quite like that because, again, it does add a little extra life to the figure, and we don't really see that too often when it comes to stegosaur species in the Mattel line. As far as articulation goes, you do have the leg articulation forward and back. You can also bring the legs out away from the body, but you'll only be able to do that, I think, on the front legs. The rear legs move forward and back pretty nicely. They don't come out away from the body, though. And again, we have the articulation here in the tail side to side. No swiveling or anything like that. And that's probably going to be part of the action feature. And then to check out the Jurassic Facts app, you simply lift up one of the plates, and there is the code if you would like to add this one to your collection. So overall, that is definitely a really nice figure. Could have had a little bit better as far as the paint apps go, but it is still a gorgeous looking version of a Hesperosaurus, and I think the first one that I now have in my collection. As far as the action feature goes, again, we have that sort of wheel gimmick up here where we are going to just push it. Just wanted to give a little listen to the noises. So obviously the tail just goes back and forth and strikes and attacks. And with the bend in the tail, that's a pretty nice action feature, I think, for this species. As far as a size goes, for a length from the tail to the snout, about 11 inches or around 28 centimeters. And then for a height, about 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Hesperosaurus. And you can see this is a really nicely sized figure, and I can't recall exactly, but I think this might be the first time we've actually had a stegosaur species in this size range. I could be wrong, and please, if I am wrong, correct me in the comment section so I can remember, but I don't really personally recall us getting a stegosaur species in this size range prior. Then for another size comparison, next to the Roarivore style version of Bumpy the Ankylosaurus, you can see that this actually has a pretty good size to it. The Hesperosaurus, I think, is actually larger than I was expecting, and I think you can see that here next to this Bumpy. Then when it comes to a smaller stegosaur species we've had prior in the Mattel line, we have the Schlingosaurus here next to the Hesperosaurus, showing you that there is definitely a pretty significant size difference here. And then for one final size comparison that I think will really put into perspective the size of the Hesperosaurus, here is a standard-sized Mattel Stegosaurus next to the Hesperosaurus. And although the Stegosaurus is obviously quite a bit larger, that Hesperosaurus isn't too far off. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Epic Evolution Wild Roar Hesperosaurus is another really nice release, and it's probably one of the coolest stegosaur species we've had so far. Also one of the nicest, I think, as far as the sculpt goes. The fine detail is really well done. I like that there is quite a bit of life to the figure. You know, sometimes the Mattel figures look a little lifeless. They look great, but a little lifeless, whereas we have a little personality with this one, with the mouth slightly open and the curve in the tail. Definitely just adding a little extra to the figure. And again, the scale detail throughout looks great. This would be a fun one for a repaint because I think a dark wash could climb in and out of all the cracks and crevices of the scales very nicely. On top of that, you have some okay paint apps. I think this is probably one of my least favorite as far as this newest wave of Wild Roars when it comes to the paint apps, just because there's not a whole lot going on for it. But it doesn't look bad. It still looks okay, and the fact that we actually have the plates painted out the entire way through, or at least colored, because they're all just one solid piece of material, not necessarily painted, but they're colored the entire way through, is nice. The only thing that I think would have helped would have been maybe a little extra coloration on the underside, and maybe the Thagomizers being painted. Actually, I think the Thagomizers being painted probably was like one of the most important things they could have done to improve it, but it is still pretty nice overall. And on top of that, we also have some pretty fun articulation, your kind of standard action feature that you would expect for a Stegosaur species. It works pretty nicely and also includes some fun noises. So as a whole, this is definitely a very cool figure and one that I'm really happy to add to my collection. Even though the paintwork could have been improved a little bit, I still think it's a really quite nice version of a Hesperosaurus, and again, the very first one I believe to enter my collection. So as always, if you are interested in this, you need to head to your local Walmart, because that is exactly where Plush Boy Q found this one for me. Again, a massive thank you goes out to him for hooking me up with this. Definitely much appreciated, because it's non-existent in my area at this point in time. So a massive thank you goes out to Plush Boy Q, and again, if you are interested, head to your local Walmart. Good luck, happy hunting, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.